Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've been having a great weekend so far, and welcome to our bi-weekly news video. I have a lot of news to cover with you, so let's get started. First, let me tell you that OUPES, ladies and gentlemen, is going to have an event, a sale event that starts tomorrow on Monday. And right now, I have a coupon code, a special one that they made for me that will last until the 29th of May that will get you 10% off instead of the regular 5% off that they offer. A lot of traveling is going to be happening this summer, ladies and gentlemen. People want to get out, enjoy themselves, get a little bit of sun. Heck, I may do that as well later on in the summer. U.S. Department issues worldwide caution. Worldwide, not just in the States, alert for Americans. The U.S. Department of State on Friday issued a worldwide caution and alert for U.S. citizens to remain alert of possible T attacks or other violent actions against Americans. I remember this article that I read. This was, I don't know, about 3 or 4 years ago, where a couple who were humanitarians, meaning that they went around the world helping people and stuff like that. And that is a great thing. But they had such a big heart that maybe it got in the way of how they thought rationally. They decided to go on a bicycle riding trip across Afghanistan. And their premise is that people around the world just want to love each other and that they don't really want to hurt each other. Well, they found out in a very rough way, ladies and gentlemen, that ended up costing them their lives. That's not the case in every country. So anyways, just be careful out there. The agency said that the warning was sent because of the potential for T attacks, demonstrations, or violent actions against U.S. citizens and interests. Americans who are overseas, it added, are encouraged to use increased caution and come back home if you can, my opinion. Stay alert in locations frequented by tourists, including celebrations and venues frequented by those individuals, the bulletin added. So pretty much just be careful where you go and what you do this summer, ladies and gentlemen, because as I stated, probably starting about 2 or 3 years ago, around the early 60s, what was going on? A lot of civil unrest, right? A lot of police buildings were being set on fire and explosives being used on them and stuff like that. And we're going to be turning into, or have turned into, that same part of the cycle that happened about 60 years ago or so. And it just happens to be about a 60-year cycle. This gentleman who was speaking at a congressional hearing added that he believes it's only a matter of when and not if a T attack is carried out on U.S. soil. Don't stop living your lives. Just keep your situational awareness about you. It's so important, ladies and gentlemen, that we take a little bit of a look at history. Stocks pause after Dow briefly touches historic 40,000 points, and it actually closed a little bit above 40,000. I believe it closed around 40,005 or 40,003 points, something like that. And intraday, I think it hit like 40,086 points or something like that. Anyways, the reason I say you should study a little bit of history is because right now the stock market is euphoric. Same thing that happened right before the great crash of 1929, which started the Great Depression. Is how everyone remembers those series of events. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before the crash of 1929, there was a lot of propaganda, and it was telling people, hey, the market only has one way to go. There's only one way that this market can go, is up. And now I think that people are thinking that the market only has one way to go, and it's only up. They're going to pull the rug right out from under you, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because in my opinion, once the big dogs get out, the only ones that are going to be left in there are the retail investors, and they don't care about you. So be careful. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'd be careful. And I would have to say that this here is exactly the reason why we prepare. We don't prepare for the end of the world. We don't prepare for a tidal wave that only the people who have the ark is going to survive, ladies and gentlemen. We prepare for things like this. So I hope that Texans have taken heed to the various warnings, not just from myself, but from so many other people that say, hey, at least have a generator. At the minimum, have a generator. Millions of Texans are without power as storms topple transmission towers. From what I understand, they were having some serious winds down there. Powerful storms tore through eastern Texas on Thursday evening, decimating transmission towers and plunging over 1 million residents into darkness. Severe thunderstorms moving across the Houston metro area have a history of producing damaging winds. This destructive storm will contain wind gusts up to 80 miles an hour, and a tornado is possible, said the National Weather Service of Houston. And look at this, ladies and gentlemen. These power lines are just toppled. I can only imagine how much time it's going to take for them to fix these things. Nearly 1 million are without power as powerful storms move through with 117 or up to 117 mile-per-hour winds, toppling large transmission power lines and shattering skyscrapers. And I did see some of this video footage yesterday of these skyscrapers where a lot of the windows were missing, like you're watching right here. The ones that I saw, though, were a little bit worse than this, but even though, that's a lot of windows to have to replace. And not only that, imagine the ground where these windows were falling to. Very dangerous, I can only assume. Been talking about this for a while, and I believe it is only going to get worse before it gets better. So get your beef now. Learn how to pressure can now. Buy canned beef, all that kind of stuff that you know is already out there and you can obtain easily right now. Get it now, because it's going to get more difficult, if not a lot more expensive to get. America's dairy cow replacement inventory collapses to 2-decade low. The nation's food supply chain remains under stress. We've been sounding the alarm on Americans' beef cattle supply dwindling to the lowest levels in over a half of a century. The latest USDA data shows that the nation's beef cattle herd plunged to its lowest level since 1951, primarily due to persistent drought across the Midwest, surging diesel and feed costs, and high interest rates. Higher costs have forced ranchers to cull an increasing number of beef cows. Remember, we've talked about input costs in the past, and that input cost is a big driver as to how a rancher or a farmer or any business really will be able to operate and what they will be able to offer and or how much they will have to charge for their product. Well, that's what this is here, ladies and gentlemen. They say here that, let's see, surging diesel and feed costs, higher interest rates, so inflation. You know, and the thing is that, you know how I talked about that Argentina right now, they're going through the period of where they're going to have to pay for their past sins, right? By the real high hyperinflation that they're getting of 250 and sometimes more %. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what's happening to us in slow motion, but eventually it's going to get just as bad, probably worse than what's happening in Argentina with inflation. And it's not going to be because of a lack of consumer goods. It's going to be because there's just too much money in the system, and we're going to have to start bringing that money back in and getting it destroyed. And how do you do that? With high interest rates, ladies and gentlemen, is how you can destroy money. Well, we're going to have to see what happens in the future. But take a look at this down here. This looks like it's pretty much the lowest that it's ever been. You know, this here goes back all the way to like 1970, and it says here USDA cattle and calf inventory. So it's all the way down to 87,157. Doesn't look very good to me as far as charts go. This is a pretty long read, but I'm going to read to you the gist of it. And of course, I always leave the links to all of these articles on a pinned comment so that you can come and revisit them. Why will the dollar lose its status as world reserve currency? By the early 400s, the Roman Empire was coming apart at the seams and in desperate need of strong, competent leadership. And that's the key word here. Leadership. The United States of America has everything it needs, ladies and gentlemen. That's the shame of it all. We here in this nation, we have everything that we need to provide for ourselves a great standard of living, but our leadership is the problem, in my humble opinion, of course. Here they continue to talk about Rome. Inflation was high, taxes were high, economic production declined, Roman military power declined, and all of Rome's foreign adversaries were emboldened. Let me go ahead and read that part again. All of Rome's foreign adversaries were emboldened. Meaning what? That they pretty much had lost respect for Rome. Can you see what's going on here and around the world with the United States of America? To a casual observer, it would have almost seemed as if Honorius, which was the leader of Rome at that time, went out of his way to make the empire weaker. Imagine that. It's almost like it's being played out word for word right now in real time. To the casual observer, it seemed that at that time the leadership of Rome was actually going out of its way to make their empire weaker. The United States has been the world's dominant superpower for decades, but like Rome in the later stage of its empire, the U.S. is clearly in decline. And this should not be a controversial statement, they say, and I agree with that. The United States is in decline, ladies and gentlemen. Just take a look around. It's important to stay focused on the facts and reality. The United States economy is still vast and potent. Although I believe that the economy is doing terrible right now, we can always come back. We have in the past. And the country is blessed with an abundance of natural resources, incredibly fertile farmland, some of the world's largest freshwater resources, and incalculable reserves of energy and other key commodities. We still have all of these things available to us. In fact, it's amazing that the people in charge have managed to screw it up so badly, and yet they have. And some people may think that it is amazing that they've managed to screw it up. But I'm of the mindset that maybe this was all planned ahead of time. Out of control inflation, it now takes at least $178,000 for a family of 4 to live comfortably in the U.S. And that $178,000, ladies and gentlemen, that is for the most inexpensive state in our nation for a family of 4. Some of you may ask, but AP, don't you already work with a company that provides antibiotics? Yes, I do. And I've often said that competition is the best thing for the consumer, guaranteeing that you get the best product at the best price. And that's why I've decided to partner with Jase Medical, because they offer different things at different prices, and you can see for yourself. For example, this month they have the Jase Go Bag, which is a brand new travel size kit that you can take with you pretty much anywhere you go. And it has you covered for over 30 different illnesses. For example, motion sickness, diarrhea. I know it sounds nasty, but these things do happen. STIs, UTIs, ear infections, pneumonia, strep throat, pretty much illnesses that can ruin your fun during a vacation or getaway, but can also be used to prevent illnesses from getting out of control and being life-threatening. And for the month of May, it is on sale for $129.95. In addition to that, I do have a code that would save you an additional $10 off the price at checkout. And guess what? Jase Medical is also available in Canada. And if you're looking for something more robust, the Jase case is their most popular item, which brings your standard antibiotics amongst other medications that you may need in the case that you couldn't make it to a health professional for whatever reason. And all of these medications, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that may not know, they are all prescription medications. And it's a prescription that's written by a doctor after you fill out a short survey, just to make sure that you're not allergic to any of these medications before a pharmacist, a real pharmacist, fills the prescription and gets it shipped out to you. Jase Medical has pretty much something for everyone, all the way from the base, from the Jase Go to the Max and Kid case. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to take advantage of their Jase Go case, it is on sale for the month of May for $129.95 minus $10 if you use the coupon provided in the description, and I will also leave it on a pinned comment. Now let's get back to the video. And here they say that in a recent study, they found out that families need nearly $300,000 to simply live comfortably in the United States. The least expensive state requires about half that salary, but still well over $100,000. Meanwhile, the average salary in the United States is about $59,000 or $28.29 per hour as of May this month, 2024. The study determined that Massachusetts was the most expensive, coming in at $302,000 a year or $301,000 a year for a family of 4 to live comfortably. In the Magnolia State, it only takes $178,000 for a family of 4, and that would be Mississippi, to cover their expensive expenses, excuse me, and maintain a satisfactory quality of life. This is our country now, they say, ladies and gentlemen. And guess what? 5 years from now, we're going to be looking at these numbers and hoping that that's what the numbers are 5 years from now, because it's going to be a lot more expensive than this. And the author of this article agrees. Expect more inflation no matter who wins the contest this November. Why? Because the government has no choice but to continue to deficit spend, meaning that they have to continue to borrow. Understand this, ladies and gentlemen, that as long as the government borrows, they stay in power. As long as they're restricted from borrowing, we, the people, have the power. Which means what? That as long as there is a fiat currency system, the government has the power because they can borrow as much as they want, as long as they have a Federal Reserve that's willing to monetize the debt. And I understand the Federal Reserve does not directly monetize the debt. They use loopholes through the law in order to do that because they can't do that lawfully, right? But they still do. So as long as they're still borrowing, they're still in control. As long as we can implement a system of sound money, we, the people, will have the voice and be in control. Well, what's it going to take to get there? In my opinion, a lot more suffering. And a lot more suffering is what we will get, ladies and gentlemen. The Cloward and Piven strategy of overwhelming our systems within our nation is working. It's a strategy that has been in place for over 60 years, but it was never planned. But it's working. Report finds that more than half of those people who entered our borders unlawfully since 2022 do not have a job. Where do you think they're getting support from? Our tax dollars, i.e. the debt that is being made by the federal government that we have to pay interest on for the rest of our lives and the rest of our children's and their children's lives. And that's going to be it for this news video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you got something out of this. Remember that I leave the links to all of these stories on a pinned comment. And remember, I will leave the link to the OUPES site along with that 10% off coupon code that they gave me. It will be good until the 29th of May. And their sale event will be starting tomorrow on Monday. Having said that, I hope that you have a great rest of your weekend and go out there and get a little bit of sun. It's been beautiful out here lately. Maybe I'll have to do a walk and talk video here pretty soon. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.